Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aaron Blade, and I'm the editor, creator, and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you found this presentation helpful, informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. Always appreciate all the support that I am given. Now that we got that out the way, it feels so good to be back. I've missed you all. A lot has changed over the course of a month in my life. Um, I recently found myself on a new career path. I have relocated, so I moved into a new home. Maybe I'll do an episode on giving you all a tour. All right. Back by popular demand, I brought back the classroom setting with the bookshelf and everything. You all stated that you all like that, so I listened to all of you. Thank you all so much for the support and the feedback and being patient with me as I've relocated and made this transition. I do greatly appreciate it. That being said, I've had many great questions flood my email. I'm going to pick 5 of those and answer them. So, without further ado, let's get into some questions. But first, a word from our sponsors. Just kidding. We don't do that here. Hit that intro and let's begin. All right, let's jump right into the first question. First question is, I am leaving Christianity. I just have a question. Who was the Son of Man that Daniel seen in his vision, if not Jesus? So, what Daniel is describing is the Messianic age. This is indeed a Messianic prophecy. Okay? So Christians like to attribute Daniel chapter 7, verses 13 and 14 to Jesus. However, the passage essentially disqualifies Jesus entirely. Right? We'll read it together. Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 to 14. In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All peoples, nations, and men of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. So, obviously, this is describing the Messiah. Okay? Now, Christians like to attribute this passage to Jesus, but the problem, 2 problems. One is that it states in the passage very clearly that all peoples, nations of every language will essentially serve him, right? That being the Mashiach, right? The Messiah. All the nations don't serve Jesus at all. So this can't clearly be talking about Jesus, right? Moreover, the passage states that in Daniel's vision, he's seen the Son of a Man. Now, what do the church claim Jesus to be? The Son of God, right? So, Daniel is essentially describing a human being, right? A son of a man. And Christians' claim is that Jesus wasn't a son of a man, he was the Son of God. So, there are 2 problems with Christians trying to identify this passage relating to Jesus. Okay? All nations don't serve Jesus at all. And Jesus didn't establish a kingdom that is everlasting here on earth, right? Now, of course, you can already hear the Christians' rebuttal. Well, he's going to come back and do it. And when he comes back, we'll give him another crack at it. Sure, why not, right? But until then, all nations, let's deal with the facts. All nations do not serve Jesus. There is no kingdom that he established here on earth. And I get it. Well, the kingdom wasn't earthly. It was spiritual. But that's not what the text says in Daniel at all. It clearly states that all peoples, nations of every language will serve him. So again, this is a messianic prophecy, but it cannot relate to Jesus at all, because Jesus is not served by all nations of every language. And clearly, if I am to believe what the church is claiming about Jesus, Jesus was the begotten Son of God. So he wasn't the son of a man. So there goes your whole theory. All right. Moving on. Next question. Who is your favorite prophet from the Tanakh? If I had to choose, I'd say Jeremiah. The reason that I'd say Jeremiah is because you really have to understand what Jeremiah went through. Okay? He lived in the first temple period and was basically prophesying that the temple would be destroyed. Okay? Of course, during his prophecy and during his time, there rose many other so-called prophets, but they weren't really prophets. And what they were egging on was that we should essentially go to war with King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. And Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, is saying, no, do not do this. Babylon at the time was the superpower, okay? The superpower of the world. And Jeremiah is trying to tell people that if we go up against Babylon, they will crush us. They will crush us with very little effort, okay? But then you had other so-called prophets that came and said, no, God is with us and on our side. As long as we have the temple, nobody can defeat us, etc., right? Now, these weren't your typical Jews that involve themselves in magic or, worship idols or whatever the case may be. These were actually very religious Jews that were claiming that if we go to war with Babylon, we can win. We can tackle the superpower, right? And Jeremiah is trying to convince people, like, no, God is not with us if you do this, So, Jeremiah essentially almost lost his life, actually. Yeah, he was actually thrown in the quicksand, right? He disagreed with everybody, and at that time, people were, what do you do when, you rally behind your nation, right? Yeah, we could take on Babylon and this, that, and the third, and Jeremiah was saying, no, we can't, and it makes it seem like he's, being treasonous, or he doesn't believe in the nation, he's a false prophet, etc. So he actually gets thrown into quicksand and almost dies. Okay, he's saved. The majority of the Jews, we go to war with Babylon and we get crushed. It is a massacre. It's not even close. Okay, so it turned out what Jeremiah was prophesying came to pass. So if I had to pick a prophet, just considering what he was dealing with in the era that he lived in, I have to go with Jeremiah. That that was intense. You know what I mean? Consider if you were in that crowd, right? You have one individual saying that no, we cannot defeat the superpower, right? We won't even be a formidable opponent to them. And then you have 10, 11 other religious Jews. These weren't idol worshippers, they were religious Jews that believe that we have the temple, we're prophets, what have you. We can do this. God is with us always. Who are you going to side with? Right? So I'd have to say Jeremiah. Next question. What is your advice to someone whose family isn't supportive of what you're trying to do? Get away from them. Get away from people that hate on you. Get away from, I don't care if it's your family, get away from them. Get away from people that's hating. Get away from people that ain't never started a business. Get away from people that ain't never been nowhere except the family reunion. Get away from people that ain't never followed their dreams. Get away from them. I had to do it. Right? I had to cut off family members. I had to do it. You know? I had dreams and goals and whatnot. And those dreams and goals led me to join the military and retire in my 30s. I am retired from the military in my 30s. Now, in the beginning, it looked like everyone was right, you know? You can't sit up here and retire that early and you know, you really think you're going to join the military and it's just, you know, you ain't tough enough to join the military. And, you know, I heard it all. Get away from them. You know, I have a problem with negative people. Right? And here's how you know. Like, you come up with an idea or a dream or a goal, right? And if you have someone that immediately starts poking holes or starts pointing out the issues with that dream or that goal, get them away from you. Now, there's a time to talk about the issues and problems or what have you that may arise, but not while I'm dreaming. Not while I'm dreaming. So get away from them. Surround yourself with people that believe in you. And I don't care if it's one or two people. Sometimes that's all you need. Surround yourself with people that believe in you. Even if you have to stand by yourself, believe in yourself. So, hope that answers that question. Next. Hey Blade, I am interested in a man that is currently struggling financially. I know you aren't a marriage counselor, but you give good relationship advice. I was wondering if I should ask him out or wait until he's on his feet and lands a good paying job. So, my honest opinion, if you're interested in him and you like him, ask him out. See, social media has warped people's sense of reality. Okay? Women need to understand that a struggling man is the prize. A struggling man is the prize. As long as he's trying to do better. I'm not talking about the man that goes from, you just uses person to person and whatnot. No, I mean a man that is actually trying to do better. That man is the prize. That man is the diamond in the rough, right? Because a person will show you who they truly are when they have nothing to offer you. They don't have anything to offer you, right? You'll find out how much that man cares about you and whether he can put his ego to the side for you or not, right? Many women avoid dating struggling men, but as far as financially, that's where the foundation of trust and loyalty is built. That's where the foundation of trust and loyalty is built. Okay? Because he's not trying to win you over with any money because he doesn't have any. Right? So he has to resort to winning you over with the right things: effort, consistency. Okay? That comes with respect. Right? You only value and respect something that you had to work hard to get. So he understands that the grind, working a 9 to 5, the sweat, putting in the overtime, the hard work just to take you out. He understands, how hard it is to work. He has to work in order to pay for that meal that you want, or that movie, or whatever it is that he wants, to take you out and do, right? So that's where I feel that I'd say 99% of guys that have wealth fall short, right? Because he has no respect for you. The wealthy guys have no respect for you. He didn't put in any effort or work to build a foundation of trust or anything. In his mind, he simply bought you. Okay? You are just a prize on a shelf that he can pull out and play with or show off whenever he feels like it. Right? That is what wealthy men do, right? I mean, they buy things because they can, right? Not because they need it or even want it. It's just to show that they can, And to a wealthy man, females come a dime a dozen, right? Because simple women appreciate a man with money, and it creates this arrogance in that man, right? That's why most good-looking men who have a lot of money are typically assholes to their women, right? Unless they had a woman that helped them get to that point, they're typically assholes. They're typically womanizers, and they feel like they can do whatever they want. They're untouchable, right? So if you have a man that was there with you, and you stuck it out with him during the grind and whatnot, that man is going to work hard to keep you and show you ways of letting you know that he cares about you and loves you without any money. And those are the best kind of men, because then you got to get creative. His mind has to essentially, those wheels has to turn, right? Maybe write you a poem or something. You know what I mean? You got to get creative. And that's when, a man is at his best. And you really find out who you're dealing with, right? So I would say absolutely ask him out, right? A struggling man is the prize. If you have a man that has this stuff together, a lot of them become arrogant, because so many women go after money, right? So I say go for it. All right. Last question. What do you think of Rabbi Akiva naming Bar Kokhba the Messiah? Christians often say that one of the greatest leaders of the Jewish community was wrong, so couldn't all Jews be wrong about Jesus? Okay, so for those that don't know, Bar Kokhba was thought of to be the Mashiach. He led a revolt against the Romans and was actually successful in pushing the Romans back and out for a couple years. Right? It only lasted a couple of years. Then the Romans came back and essentially it just completely demolished us. Okay. But many thought during that revolt, because Bar Kokhba was successful, that this could be it. He could be the Mashiach, right? And one of those individuals was an amazing rabbi named Rabbi Akiva. Okay. So during Rabbi Akiva's time, he believed that Bar Kokhba was the Mashiach because of what he was able to accomplish, right? And overpowering the Romans and pushing them out, right? Again, it only lasted a couple years, but during that time, Rabbi Akiva thought that Bar Kokhba was the Mashiach, right? Now, of course, when the Romans retaliated, completely crushed everybody, killed Bar Kokhba, obviously anyone that still believed that Bar Kokhba was the Mashiach or was the Messiah, at that point it was heresy, right? At that point, once, he got killed, that's it, right? But I ask a more tedious question to Christians, right? And that is, if you have a Christian that poses the question the way that you did, right? Christians often say that one of the greatest leaders of the Jewish community was wrong, so couldn't all the Jewish community be wrong about Jesus? I would ask, how do you know that Rabbi Akiva was wrong? How do you know that Bar Kokhba wasn't the Mashiach, wasn't the Messiah? How do you know that? And most Christians will stumble and say, well, he died. The Romans went in and they killed him, and, that was it. Really? So, Bar Kokhba led a revolt, was successful for a couple of years, then the Romans came in, killed him, and that was the end of it, right? And so most Christians will say, yeah, so he couldn't have been the Messiah. So tell me about your man Jesus again. So, obviously, Jesus, wasn't anywhere near as far as the success rate of overthrowing the Romans or what have you, and he got killed by the Romans. The end. So Bar Kokhba got a little bit farther than Jesus did. So there's more there to believe that Bar Kokhba at his time was the Mashiach than Jesus. Right? So it all depends on how you look at it, I suppose. But no, Rabbi Akiva, once Bar Kokhba died, there aren't any Jews that still believe that Bar Kokhba is the Mashiach. We are clear and we understand what the Mashiach is supposed to do. If someone fails at doing it, there aren't any Jews walking around saying they know Bar Kokhba is going to come back and do X, Y, and Z. Right? He failed. Hey, and many believe that that revolt actually was so detrimental to the Jews, right? I mean, it seemed like, you know, he was having success, and as I said, for a couple of years, we did. But when the Romans came back and retaliated, it was a complete massacre of our people. It was, yeah, it was horrible, right? So many felt that what Bar Kokhba had done actually um, gave us a glimpse of hope and a few years of peace, and the Romans just completely annihilated and crushed any hope that we even had, right? So it is, his revolt is still controversial to this day. All right. So yeah, those are all the questions for now. Thank you all so much for watching this presentation. If you found it helpful, informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Blade Talk and being patient with me again. I had a lot of things going on. Thank you all so much for bearing with me. And there will be more presentations to come, I promise. Thank you all so much. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and I will catch you all in the next episode. You all take care.